RJF here, your savior, your Ayatollah of realistic thinking. We're going to talk a little bit about Zach Wilson. Unfortunately, I'm in Arizona right now and I'm sweating. It's terrible. So you're going to have to talk to the mask while I stand in front of the air conditioner in the lovely Ramada Inn. I'm dealing with some ass monkey, some tool named Old Dave 1000, Mr. Green Jeans, who I've challenged to come on here, who just thinks that Zach Wilson is a competent NFL quarterback. So let's all play We Report to Joe Douglas. Joe Douglas is hired. He has an option. He can keep Sam Darnold and trade for basically 2 number 1 picks, which means he will have 3 number 1 picks in the future if Sam Darnold doesn't work out. Or you can draft another quarterback that won't be Trevor Lawrence. So you and me, we're tasked with taking a look at Zach Wilson and reporting to Joe Douglas on what we know about this player. And what do we know about this player? Well, we know he plays for BYU. We know that BYU isn't a big football school. We know that Zach Wilson isn't heavily recruited. It's a 3-star recruit. We know that he didn't have a very good start in 2018 or 2019. He really didn't do much. What do we know about his great year? Well, what we know is that Mr. Joe Douglas, we're sitting down with him right now, you can imagine. Well, Joe Douglas, looks like Zach Wilson was a one-year wonder during a COVID pandemic when there was no fans in the stand. Prior to that, he had really 2 forgettable seasons. Okay, what else do we know? Well, we know he went to a small school and faced subpar competition that often resulted in him playing with a completely clean pocket and receivers running free. Oh, okay. What else do we know? Well, we know that, he plays a schoolyard ball and that, it masks the fact that he often demonstrated poor footwork within the structure. Oh, what else do we know? What else is everyone saying? Well, in college, Joe Douglas, he's shown a tendency to overstride and sail throws at times. We've seen that he usually passed up on easy throws to take the harder throw. He doesn't work with enough anticipation as a passer, and he makes some ill-advised throws under pressure that turn into interceptions, especially in 2019. And he'll baby throws to forcing wide receivers to break stride. That has happened. Does this sound familiar to you guys listening here? Have we seen this before? Again, this is scouting that was done before the guy was drafted. Again, Joe Douglas, Wilson's top season occurred during the COVID pandemic. He's never had to basically play at the level of an NFL quarterback with fans in the stands. Though the other quarterbacks, in the draft, they played in empty stadiums in 2020, but they had previously, Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, played within the bright lights, big schools, and everything else. The biggest reason that Zach Wilson was taken, by the way, overall, was because of Patrick Mahomes. We can't pass up on the next Patrick Mahomes. So he took a chance there, and he failed. And when other GMs took a chance, Sam Darnold, Mark Sanchez, Christian Hackenberg, Geno Smith, and it didn't succeed, they were let go. He didn't complete his job. That was his fork in the road. His fork in the road was, okay, I've had a year of watching Sam Darnold. He's not it. I am positive that Zach Wilson is it. He was wrong. You lose your job. It's as clear as that. When BYU played their 2020 season, their major competition basically did not show up and play because of the pandemic. They replaced those games with lesser teams. So all you had was 1 year of Zach Wilson with all the things that I just said that he contributed to, the baby throws, the sailing, we've seen all this. When a bad play happens, to Zach Wilson. It results in more bad plays. He can't let it go. And we've seen that. Still yet, ass monkeys like old Dave 1000 still want to basically say, well, with the proper coaching, blah, blah, blah. Well, let me ask you this, Joe Douglas. You knew you're taking Zach Wilson. You then hired a coach who's a defensive coach. Then, I know there's a big tragedy with the quarterbacks coach, but then you hire a rookie offensive coordinator, a rookie quarterback coach to take care of your rookie quarterback. I mean, it's just bad management from the top down. It just doesn't make any sense. So you got this guy, you fell in love with an arm strength. You fell in love with a guy who can run around backwards and with a flick of a wrist throw the ball 50 yards. And that's all you got. And that's what you basically staked this franchise on. Now, you and me listening to all this, we're Jets fans. Joe Douglas has a 6-year contract, which will basically make him, financially independent for maybe most of his life. I don't know his exact salary, but let's say he's a millionaire. So he'll be gone. He'll be well taken care of if this all doesn't work out. He's got a 6-year contract that he put into place. So he took a chance. And the chance failed. But yet, with a 20-46 record, the majority of the fan base thinks that something excellent has gone on here. So again, Zach Wilson's offensive line. Right now, as we speak, on August 16th, your best offensive lineman is 38 years old, and he's physically unable to perform. Your next offensive lineman hasn't played in 2 years, is the second biggest bust of the draft of Joe Douglas, and is basically already filling in the complaints of why he can't be a right tackle. Your third best offensive lineman is coming off of, I believe, elbow surgery or shoulder surgery. Your fourth best offensive lineman almost had not only a career-ending injury, a life-threatening injury with blood clots in his ankle and his neck, something like that with Max Mitchell. It just doesn't make any sense. So again, nothing I'm telling you is made up. This is what happens when you take your focus off the traditional things that normal scouts look at and talent evaluators, which Joe Douglas is supposed to be, and you rewatch Zach Wilson's film, and you can see that most of the footwork issues he has were there. They were obscured because he was throwing to wide open receivers. He was throwing to. Zach Wilson, he never sets his front foot. He rarely brings his body forward through his throws. He rarely rotates his hip in the direction that he's targeting. And for all of the Mahomes and Rodgers throwing off platform, they still do all that and set their feet correctly. So all of this was here. All this was known. All this, any BYU fan could have told you that, hey, he looks great, but you know something? We all look great if we're playing a bunch of 5-year-olds. Did you ever basically out there playing soccer around a bunch of 5-year-olds and you're very easily able to just control the ball, blah, 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 even if you're not an athlete? Well, Zach Wilson's an above average athlete. No one's denying that. But when you're in the NFL, you're playing with the best athletes. He's not at that level. He's not at that level as a starter. He's not at that level as a backup. He does not belong to be a quarterback in this league. And why I'm having to have this argument with ass munches like old Dave, and why I have to read all these things on Buffalo's site, who, again, nice guy, but flip-flops within a 30-second sentence. Within a 30-second sentence, he will flip-flop. He'll go from Joe Douglas should be hired forever to where he's a competent, for now, GM. And then he'll basically say, my worry meter is at a 5 on the offensive line, and then basically go on and tell you all the issues with the offensive line that would make anybody at a 12 worrying. So I don't get it, folks. I don't understand it. Here's a Zach Wilson scouting report. Here's what should have been told to Joe Douglas. Here's what Joe Douglas should have easily seen. He didn't see it. He messed up on the quarterback. He messed up on the offensive line. He messed up on the 2 second-round wide receivers that he basically had to trade on pennies on the dollar. And just because he drafted some 5th-round pick that happens to make the 53-man roster, and just because there's a Sauce, and just because there's a Garrett Wilson, because there was a Jamal Anderson, and there was a Quinnen Williams by the previous GM who had a much better record, actually 4 games better than Joe Douglas, doesn't mean that Joe Douglas is some sort of a god. He has not done his job correctly, and the proof is a 20-46 record and missing the playoffs every year and a last place team and a division of 4 teams. You're welcome.